Assalamu alaikum. Welcome to Dialogue. I'm Taimur, Shamil. Afghanistan, Kabul today was again rocked by several bomb blasts at different polling stations. And today, President Ashraf Ghani of Afghanistan has asked the young people of Afghanistan, the women of Afghanistan and the elderly to come out and vote and take part in this parliamentary elections that are underway in Afghanistan. Day before yesterday, in Kandahar, a big incident took place. General Abdul Razik, the police chief of Kandahar, was killed along with the governor of Kandahar and the intelligence chief of Kandahar. This was a big attack because also the head of US forces in Afghanistan, General Miller, was also in that meeting. While these gentlemen were leaving the meeting and heading towards their helicopters, they were attacked by the bodyguard of, reportedly, of the governor of Kandahar. General Miller escaped, but all the other 3-4 people, they died in the attack. The security situation in Afghanistan is still precarious. It's a dangerous place. Taliban still control large parts of Afghanistan. The United States is also trying its best to bring Taliban to the negotiating table and to push them for peace. This was also tried by the President Ashraf Ghani and his administration. Though Taliban have denied any legitimacy which they think if they would go for talks with the Kabul government, they would give them legitimacy. They have denied them, the Kabul government, that legitimacy. Now there are reports that the United States perhaps is having or trying to have direct talks with the Taliban. President Ashraf Ghani is not very happy with this approach, and he was very vocal about this. This was reported widely in the international media and also specifically in the US media that President Ashraf Ghani isn't very happy with the American envoy, Zalmay Khalilzad, the way they are approaching Taliban and bypassing, as you can call it, the Kabul government. Today we are going to discuss about the 17-year-long war in Afghanistan. Would Zalmay Khalilzad be able to perform what he is expected to perform in Afghanistan? Pakistan has made Pakistan's stance regarding Afghanistan very clear, that Pakistan stands with the people of Afghanistan, Pakistan stands for peace and stability, and Pakistan supports any political solution to the Afghan war, which is owned and led by the people of Afghanistan. But at the same time, Pakistan has said that Pakistan would not fight anybody else's war on Pakistani soil. We are going to discuss about this today with our special guest in our studios. Our first guest is Ambassador Burhan al-Islam, a renowned senior diplomat and an expert on Pakistan's foreign policy. So welcome to the show. Our second guest is Professor Dr. Amina Mehmood. She is the head of International Relations Department at Islamic University, Islamabad. Welcome to the show, Dr. Amina. Our third guest is Brigadier retired Tipu Sultan. He is a renowned senior defense analyst and an expert on Pakistan-Afghanistan relations and also on counter-terrorism. Welcome to the show, Brigadier Tipu Sultan. So starting with this recent incidents that have been taking place in Afghanistan. Day before yesterday, the police chief of Kandahar, General Abdul Razik, was killed in an attack. And this was also, interestingly, not the first time that he was attacked. He was attacked many times, but he got killed day before yesterday, along with the governor and other people who were there in that compound. Today, again, several bomb blasts took place in Kabul. They rocked Kabul, and what President Ashraf Ghani just said, I just said that. What do you think about the Afghan situation at the moment, and how is United States and Pakistan, they both are looking at it?
Situation in Afghanistan continues to remain uncertain, and a lot of efforts we have seen right, left and the center for moving towards achieving a political solution. Taliban remains firm on its position that elections and other activities that the government is suggesting or the Western powers are encouraging are not going to take the country anywhere. No legitimacy could be offered to them, and they continue to increase their resistance and their military offensive wherever possible. And these attacks in Kabul very sad in terms of killing of people. But as far as Taliban are concerned, apparently they have got some big targets taken off from the political scene of Afghanistan. Now how things move forward in the days and months to follow, one doesn't know. Pakistan wants peace in Afghanistan. Pakistan is to benefit more than any other country in the region if peace returns in Afghanistan. It seems that parties are not yet prepared to give the their system to move forward at this stage. Of course, Taliban's resistance has a reason. They say that foreign forces should not be allowed to continue to stay in Afghanistan. Only way to seek a political solution of the problem is to establish dialogue with the concerned parties in Afghanistan. But they don't recognize the government. So the government of present government has got no legitimacy in terms of Taliban's recognition is concerned. But they are holding 30–40% of the territory. We'll have to see. The elections they thought is not a useful exercise. More important, the Taliban would say that let's talk directly to the Americans. In that context, as you refer that Zalmi Khalilzad has been meeting the Taliban directly in Qatar. Important high-level contacts has been established, but we don't know if they will be able to get a breakthrough in that. What Taliban want is some sort of roadmap for withdrawal of the foreign forces, NATO and United States. I think Americans and Western forces are not yet ready to give a time frame. It means this sort of situation will continue.
And I think the bigger question, Dr. Amina, is that does US want to withdraw from Afghanistan, or the NATO forces, they want to withdraw from Afghanistan? First of all, this is the big question. And if they would, what would be the security situation in Afghanistan? Because we see Taliban hitting people in Kandahar, in Kabul and other places. How do you see the situation?
Thank you very much. I think that there are two opinions about it. First, that Americans, they don't want to withdraw. And second, Americans want to withdraw in the same way as they claim themselves that they want to get out of Afghanistan with respect, as they used to use this phrase in case of Vietnam. This is the time when we think about American strategy. American strategy presently is appeared as they want to stay here, and they want to keep Afghanistan as a watching post to all development happening in this region, especially the power transition, as SCO is being strong now, and India and Pakistan are also included. Israel and the Middle Eastern countries requested for as observer status and membership of that later on. And they know that Russia is the big stakeholder in Afghanistan, China is another big stakeholder in South Asia and Central Asia, and Central Asian states are themselves very, they are planning to make a bigger economic bloc, and that region is going to be the bigger that they are involved in OBOR, and they are connected way to the whole region. So I think that Americans don't want to withdraw right now. They want to be the part of global transformation, and they want to take their share. They don't want to hand over their status as the single superpower. They don't want to hand over that hegemonic status. One thing. The other, that you say that obviously when they withdraw, they want to have some solution. They want to bring some peace, and they want to bring some democratic government here. And as they took their moral stance that they want to bring peace and tranquility and progress in this region through democratic values, human rights and other, But that is not apparently in the near future possible, because you see that whenever there would be power vacuum, whenever NATO forces will pull out, certainly there would be power vacuum, and as happened in 1990s, there was a power vacuum, and there cannot be any solution imposed from outside. That would be the solution, feasible and practicable, that would be chalked out by the stakeholders in Afghanistan themselves. But civil war is inevitable in absence of that solution.
And this is, I think, the bigger issue. What Ambassador Burhan was saying earlier, that so you're talking about 30%. The analysts from White House say 30% or 40%. Defense analysts, American defense analysts say that 60% of Afghanistan, or perhaps little more than that, is still under the Taliban control. And this same thing, Brigadier Tipu Sultan, that Taliban still control large parts of Afghanistan. We have more terrorist organizations 17 years on in Afghanistan, Daesh for that matter, Jamaatul Ahrar, all these are operating inside Afghanistan. There are little small fiefdoms, I would say, warlords fighting each other in Afghanistan. And American officials have also said that they would not leave. Top American army officials have said that they would stay rather. If they don't leave, do you think that Afghanistan can see any political solution and there would be any democratic process going on in Afghanistan?
I think the dilemma with the United States is they don't know what is going to happen to Afghanistan if they leave. They want to make reasonably sure that when they leave, they should have some sort of a apparatus in place which suits them. And the other big problem that they're having is that they really don't know what to do with it. If you recall our foreign minister's visit to the United States and he meeting various people, especially their Deputy Secretary of State Henry Eshner, who said that Pakistan needs to change its policy towards Afghanistan and look at the regional approach. I would ask him that, and he said that he needs to understand what the United States want. We don't know what does the United States want, and if they're treading a policy in Afghanistan to be successful, it doesn't look like that. And if we adopt the same policy which the Americans have adopted, would we be successful? Or is there anything that we are doing different than what the peace requirements are in Afghanistan? The question is that if you are lost in the confusion of selecting a course of action for you and you are not being successful, you can keep on blaming Pakistan forever. You will never ever find a solution.
And what you are saying is very important because when General Kiani, former Pakistani Chief of Army Staff, he met the American officials, he said that don't train these people that you are training in Afghanistan because they would create later issues for the American forces, the Kabul government and also for Pakistan. And perhaps that too, talking about the strategy.
I think what General Kiani meant was that the first and the foremost and the most important thing to happen in Afghanistan is the reconciliation and peace talks, which the Americans were sabotaging by killing various Taliban leaders over the years. They have killed at least 4 very prominent heads of the Taliban movement in Afghanistan. So why would they talk to them? And Pakistan was telling them all along to talk to them, and they were not. They were saying that they will militarily annihilate them, and they will talk to them. They will set up their own government. They failed to do that. And if the Americans want to stay over there forever, they can stay over there. But now, as it looks as if they do not have the means at their disposal to force peace in Afghanistan, I said. You know, when you want to force peace in Afghanistan, when you do not have the means to do that, you are bound to fail. Now I come to the question which you had asked. There are so many people who are fighting an armed struggle in Pakistan,
warlords
in Afghanistan, warlords and all that. And the writ of the Afghan government is limited to the cities only, and those cities also attacked every now and then. Look what happened to Kandahar day before, and what happened to Ghazni about a fortnight back, and what happened in Helmand and all that.
Mazar-e-Sharif for that matter, all over Afghanistan, right?
For that matter. So if they can go ahead and have a democracy of their choice, but if the ballot is not being served by the people across the turf of Afghanistan, and if it is void of 60% of the population of Afghanistan, what sort of an effective government do you expect to be at Kabul? As far as the American desire for a regional approach that Pakistan must adopt, what are the contents and dynamics and the parameters of that regional approach we will have to see.
Right.
If they would have said that they want Pakistan to facilitate the Afghan peace process, it was understandable, which we expect them to say for a long time. If they say that Pakistan needs a regional approach, well, it has got very sinister connotations.
So what I can assume, what you're saying is that this is more sort of a dictation that is perhaps coming, that the words are like this, that it's kind of dictation that Pakistan should change its strategy, you know.
Yeah, no. It stems from the American desire to keep India as a pivotal state regionally. And if they want Pakistan to adopt a regional state which in their perception should be dictated and translated and formulated by India.
Right.
That regional approach does not suit our strategy.
I would put this question to, this is a very important point and very important question, Ambassador Islam, that diplomatically looking at this whole situation, because the war is going on for the last 17 years in Afghanistan, how can we move forward? And I assume, I think that is through diplomatic means. We have been discussing this on the show several times. When Pakistani Foreign Minister Shah Mehmood Qureshi, he visited Afghanistan, that was his maiden trip to Kabul, his first trip to any country officially. That shows, that speaks volumes about Pakistan's approach and Pakistan's priority, that Afghanistan is Pakistan's priority. This thing, and also the blame game here and there off and on from the American side, and what Brigadier Tipu Sultan is saying, perhaps they want to give a little larger role to India. How do you see this diplomatically?
You see, peace in Afghanistan, as I said, is in Pakistan's interest and in the interest of most of the countries of the region. Pakistan will benefit mostly, I know there is no doubt about it. But the issue is, how do you define peace and how does it work for everybody? I mean, Americans want peace to ensure that what they want, or the government in Kabul maintains the reign of power, and then Taliban is totally crushed and not given any say in the system. That peace is not possible. Not that we don't want, but it is not possible because, as we are talking, their resistance is strong. They are holding the control of almost 70% of territory, as Americans are claiming. In that situation, if you are talking about peace by defeating them, it's not coming. We don't see it. But if you are talking about peace through dialogue between the parties and concerned parties, with a reasonable demand that the Taliban are saying that create condition under which foreign forces are also withdrawn, I think that makes reasonable. Pakistan always supported intra-Afghan dialogue. We encouraged, we arranged meetings also. We'll continue to do that. But in that, when you don't recognize the real right and weight of the party that is resisting foreign presence and resisting the work of the present government, it will not move anywhere. I don't see any progress being made. So diplomatic effort will be required. I think next year they're going to also review the process in Geneva and the present setup, or Americans and
democratic process, how it is going.
How it works, we are going to show it, or at least present a case there. But that is, how is it working? Election alone doesn't give anything to you. One party with control over such a large territory is not excluded. So how the democratic process of any sort, any legitimacy you can demand, I don't think it's not working. So their demand that Pakistan, we want their policy to be fine-tuned to suit with us. Our policy is very clear. We want peace there. We don't support anybody, any particular party. If you talk about bringing the parties on the table, no other country is more interested than Pakistan, as peace in Afghanistan is in our interest. So if that is the role, we are going to play that role. We have done it in the past also. But Deputy Secretary of State made another important comment in his statement yesterday at the Wilson Center, which is, I thought, putting pressure, he says, is a part of the component of the US foreign policy. And there he made a reference to the short and long range missile launch and growing nuclear stockpile of Pakistan. What is it? We are talking about Afghan situation, a credible party. Pakistan is, as a region which is accommodating almost 3 million Afghan refugees, and with its concurrent and concomitant impact in our society and everything. You are talking about this, and at the same time you are wanting a greater role for India. India is creating trouble all along our border with support from Afghan, elements which work against Pakistan. There you want to give more role to Afghanistan, and stability in the broader context of the region doesn't serve unless Pakistan has a reliable, solid defense mechanism of its own.
Right.
So what you are talking about a nuclear stockpile, short-range missile, these are different from things, but this is what power projection the capability of Pakistan should be recognized and should be allowed to continue.
Well, right. We're going to continue our discussion on the security situation in Afghanistan and how Pakistan is looking at it. Pakistan has been very vocal and open about it, that Pakistan would support any political process which would involve the people of Afghanistan, and that process should be led by and owned by the Afghan people. Pakistan stands for peace and solidarity. We'll continue our discussion on the security situation in Afghanistan after this break. Stay with us.
टाइम फ्रेम पे बात कर रहे हैं.
Welcome back. We are discussing the security situation in Afghanistan today. Kabul was rocked by several bomb blasts at polling stations, and President Ghani of Afghanistan has asked the people of Afghanistan to come out and vote. But at the same time, the situation is very precarious, and experts are of the view that perhaps the Kabul government could have waited for a few more months. They have waited for 3 years to go for the polls, but certainly the political process is also very important. Talking about political process, Dr. Amina, first of all, looking at President Ghani's relationship with the United States is also very important, and the relationship of different Afghan groups, Kabul government with the United States. President Ashraf Ghani, as I said in my introduction, isn't very happy with Zalmay Khalilzad because he thinks that Zalmay Khalilzad has been bypassing the Kabul government or the Ghani administration. Do you think that President Ghani is the new Karzai of Afghanistan? Because former President Karzai was also very critical of the US when he saw that he might not be able to control the situation in Afghanistan, and when he was about to leave. And even after that, he was very critical. How do you see that?
I think that the roots are in the political system of Afghanistan. You see that everybody has just mentioned that 70% of the area is controlled by Pashtuns, Talibans. And basically, Pashtuns are the potent majority in Afghanistan and its political system from the very beginning. You know, Zahir Shah, he was Pashtun, and all successors were. And nobody other than Pashtun can maintain control all over the Afghanistan. That is very clear. But the thing which is important here, that you see the constitution which is imposed on Afghanistan by Americans, that is the constitution that can be better served in US, that is the melting pot of different ethnicity and groups. But Afghanistan is having totally different background. So here Americans are ignoring the historical realism. The historical realism is that Afghans are never been a state in the sense as nation state status is, as you know, as the political student of political science, we all know. There a system can work that may be a federal form of government, or even now the situation is that that may be a confederation, a loose confederation having some stakes with the federal government, and rest all the powers should be authorized or allotted to the regions or the provinces. And only then they can reconcile and sit together and make a formula for continuity of the political system that may be democratic, that may be indigenous, and that may be having their own values. Because, you know, democracy is not only the form that is implemented in UK and US. Democracy is the system which is much demanding from the people, and people of Afghanistan are having different training, different character, different composition, and different level of education as well. And they are having their legacy of, you see, from 1990 onwards, they were struggling for a government that can be the indigenous government, and for that purpose they could not sit on the negotiation table, being the Afghans even, and they were fighting. There was a civil war, and that war was won by Taliban before that. it was won by Taliban, and again Americans have realized that this is the time that they have to negotiate with Taliban. And as Brigadier Tipu was pointing out, that Taliban is the potent force now. It is realized by the US, and without Taliban there cannot be any practical solution to the US their peaceful and their respectable walkout.
Right.
If they are asking for some respectable walkout, before that they have to establish and they have to reach to a formula for having an agreed upon government in Afghanistan.
Right.
And Hamid Karzai and Ashraf Ghani both are averse to it because they want to have their monopoly. But ultimately Northern Alliance, Taliban and all stakeholders have to sit together, and they have to chalk out their own constitution based on the Afghan values. And then that would be at the maximum a confederation, which I suggest.
But we saw that, Brigadier Sultan, that even earlier, President Ghani of Afghanistan, he offered a lot of things to Taliban. He even said that Kabul government would give visas to the Taliban leadership. Even people at the strategic level, they can walk in the Kabul streets, they can have their businesses, they can travel abroad, do whatever they want to do, and also even considering them a legitimate political party in Afghanistan. But Taliban didn't show any sort of flexibility. What Dr. Amina was saying, that perhaps if Taliban would have shown some flexibility, we could have had some sort of political solution to what is going on at the moment. Don't you think so?
Well, the real story lies with the fact that the Afghan leadership wants the Americans on their side, whether it is Abdullah, Ashraf Ghani or Karzai. That has been the main tussle of the leaders, and they want all the American attention to themselves.
Right.
And Taliban know that. Taliban have been all along saying that we will negotiate with the Americans. The Americans were saying that any negotiation must entail the government of Afghanistan, Kabul, and the Taliban were saying, no, you are the ones who are creating trouble, you are the one who have the stakes, you are the one who have the air power, and the story revolves around, so let's talk to you. So in that process, I think both Ashraf Ghani and Karzai lost the confidence of the Americans, and then they were going at a tangent what the Americans thought. That is my reading about it. Now the situation is that the Taliban do understand, notwithstanding the factions, the firesides and the other forces that be. And during the process, what happened was that they called in Gulbuddin Hikmat Yar of Hizb Islami to come and be part of the government, because he held 30-40% of political situation over there. And they thought that they will be able to woo the Pashtun population within Afghanistan, which is almost 50% of the population of Afghanistan, Uzbek, Hazaras and Tajiks being in minority. So that move has not been successful, and Taliban are still calling the shots. The Taliban have sensed that the longevity, the war which has been there for about 18 years, and the Americans and the allied forces and the forces that we and the Indians have been gradually attenuated and weakened. So their political thought and their military power has had a flip. Now in Doha, I think if you look at some of the insider reports, there are only two significant things that the Taliban is known to have told the Americans. They told them, just tell us when do you want to leave.
That's
That
what you
is
think
it.
happened in
And don't talk
Qatar.
of any formation of government or anything, or tell us what to do in Afghanistan. You leave, we will have the government, we will have our own shura, we don't agree with your democracy, we will impose Sharia, and then after 2-3 years we will invite you to have your embassy in Kabul. So these are the only 3
So
points.
no flexibility.
No flexibility whatsoever. They want them to leave, and they want them to give them a time frame. That is what my source tells me, and that's what that I believe, that the Taliban are very direct, candid in their talk, because you know, the release of prisoners and
But
other things.
this news that Zalmay Khalilzad is moving forward with the Taliban, and there have been news that they are talking with the
I am
Taliban.
happy you made a point. You see, Zalmay Khalilzad is a known person in Pakistan who is known to have said at one stage that Pakistan must be declared as a terrorist state. And he is an American citizen, he was acting on their behest and all that. Now he has come with a mandate. You know, previously no negotiators had a mandate as clear as Zalmay Khalilzad perhaps has from the Pentagon, CIA and State Department and all that. And instead of collecting everybody together, he is trying to follow Henry Kissinger's shuttle diplomacy. He came here, he went to Kabul, he went to Doha, and then he vanished in Islamabad for about 2 days. We don't know what was his whereabouts and what was he doing during those 48 hours. And since he has the backing and a relatively clearer mandate from the US government, therefore I think the people are taking him a little more seriously compared to what his credentials were before. But I will say that with a little bit of skepticism, whether or not Zalmay Khalilzad has the wheels to carry that mandate on his shoulders successfully or not.
So this would be his test in Afghanistan, certainly, that he has to perform.
And unless you know what our previous Army Chief Kiani had said, that we have no control over the Taliban, we can facilitate you. Why do you believe that, you know, we can put the Taliban at rest and we can, you know, lead them and all? No, we can't do that. And Pakistan still maintains that. You would have heard the Foreign Office spokesman the other day who said that we want the Americans to stay in Afghanistan because otherwise there will be a confusion.
This point I would put to Ambassador Islam, that looking at Afghanistan's security situation is an absolute mess, if we can call it, security-wise. Then there is blame game from the American side, even from some of the Kabul administration towards Pakistan. Pakistan has said that Pakistan would not become the scapegoat. But by the way, this was perhaps the first time that Pakistan has been very vocal about it and open about it, that this is a failed strategy in Afghanistan and Pakistan would not become a scapegoat in the region, as clear as that. Now, what are the options for Pakistan and US to go forward with their relationship? Because we see that now the Pakistan-US relations are at perhaps the lowest. Do you agree with that, and how do you see the future of Pakistan-US relations?
I think after the visit of the foreign minister to Washington, situation improved a bit. Now they don't put that kind of statement or do more or directly to Pakistan, but saying that let us strategize the peace process together type of thing they are saying, which is understandable, more respectable than the statement they used to make in the past. And I think that Alice Will's meeting 3 months ago in Qatar, also here and Qatar also, made significant improvement. And then they appointed Zalmay Khalilzad, who is an experienced guy, was their ambassador in Kabul and also ambassador at the United Nations. This guy, I don't know how much influence he carries over the parties in Afghanistan, but at least the Taliban spoke to them. I think, as my colleague was also saying, the Taliban is asking for a time frame. My source is saying that they have said 18 months to 24 months that you should be considering. Within that, if you
for withdrawal.
For withdrawal.
Right.
And then minor, small contingent that you want to keep it, it should be part of the dialogue.
18 to 24 months.
That is what they are suggesting.
Absolutely.
And time frame they have asked, and they suggested not beyond that. If you want peace, you want us to continue with it in the process of dialogue, we will ask for the time frame. And that is when I think Pakistan got concerned a little bit, saying that, look, US should not leave in a hurried manner. Let's talk about the process, and the future setup and dispensation in Afghanistan should be worked out before really talking about a final end game of Afghanistan.
So this whole thing shouldn't be half-cooked. We should look at it. And by that, if Pakistan is saying that US should look at it, it means that some mature political deal in Afghanistan?
Yes.
Can you
That
elaborate
is-
that what kind
Mature deal means and some sort of involvement of the
Involvement.
United Nations,
Right.
and the time frame, if they agree, the parties, I think they will talk about role of special envoy of Afghanistan by the United Nations.
Right.
And when they talk about it, they will discuss the time frame for US withdrawal, phases to be worked out, and then how much remaining American presence in Afghanistan will be acceptable to the parties.
to the
This is what is to be done. UN involvement is being considered, and 2 years maximum Taliban are talking about.
Dr. Amina, this is very interesting and very important that if, let's say, 18 to 24 months is the time frame that is given by the Taliban, as Mr. Islam is saying, then how do you see the future of security of this region? Because Pakistan has embarked on China-Pakistan economic corridor. We want peace and stability. We also want better relations with all the neighbors. But while having Afghanistan as a country which is war-torn, obviously we can't move forward, because after Afghanistan, Pakistan is the country which has suffered the most.
I think that would happen because Pakistan is having the experience of previous Geneva Accord in 1986. You know that after that Geneva Accord, there was a withdrawal of USSR armies, and there was again civil war, and that was settled again in the favor of Taliban. And now Taliban are seeking the same situation. They are, as my colleagues mentioned, that they are asking for immediate withdrawal, and that is 18 to 24 means immediate.
Year and a half almost,
and then
got
they are
2
not
years.
compromising. They are not coming to the terms. They are. They know they are in the position to dictate their terms. That's why they are saying so. And they know that there is no other alliance or no other force in Afghanistan that can win over Taliban. So they are seeking the same solution, that there should be withdrawal of external armies, and there would be again Talibanization and their ideologies. While Pakistan is learning from that experience, they want to have a viable solution. There could be a political system, at least basic structures that can at least resist civil war. Now coming to the solution that Pakistan is offering is a greater involvement of all the regional stakeholders. As you know that there have been 2-3 conferences before, and China, Russia, Central Asian countries, Pakistan, and now India. They are also the stakeholders. We should not avoid India, because you know India is having a potent presence in Afghanistan, and we have to bring them on the table so they can commit some international, they can commit something for peace and security in Afghanistan on international forum. So they cannot back out from that. And then there can be a solution that may be chalked out, and there would be some guarantor to that. As far as UN is concerned, okay, UN is good, but you know, UN is having more control, US is having more control over the decisions taken by the UN Security Council. So it would be better to have a regional solution sponsored by the UN. I think that is my suggestion.
My last question, Brigadier Sultan, that if Taliban want US to withdraw, perhaps that is also what President Trump wanted during his election campaign, when he said that they have to pull out troops from Afghanistan because it is costing them a lot in Afghanistan. This 17-year-long war, longest war the United States has fought anywhere ever. So this withdrawal, and perhaps President Trump would be happy with that, because this was also a question on the performance of US Army in Afghanistan, and also the political setup of Afghanistan, that they have not been able to perform over there.
It's a bitter pill that they will have to swallow. You know, unfortunately, I really regret to appreciate that the situation might be repeating in Afghanistan what had happened at the defeat of the Soviet Union, when the Americans left without having to spend even a single dollar post the Ul-Haq era. In all probability, there will be a fighting in Afghanistan, and then the Taliban may get hold of the situation and install some sort of a government post-American time in Afghanistan. There is no force in place to counter Taliban right now. And the Taliban, no matter what stages you devise, you bring in UNO, you do whatever you feel like, but in Afghanistan, when the Americans withdraw, the situation is far from being going to be stable. There will be infighting and then there will be peace.
Right.
There is no other thing that I can see right. I hope and wish that it does not happen. But as the things are, because the Americans have driven 17 years to a point, you know, if they had negotiated in 2004, 2005, 6, 7, it was different. Now we are into different times, unfortunately.
Thank you for joining us. Ambassador Islam, pleasure having you on the show. Dr. Amina Mehmood, thank you for joining us. Thank you for your time. Brigadier Tipu Sultan, pleasure having you on the show. Thank you for joining us. Pakistan stands for peace and stability, and as it was, Pakistan has shown on many occasions. Foreign Minister Qureshi's maiden trip to Kabul speaks volumes about Pakistan's approach towards Afghanistan, that Pakistan wants peace and stability over there. Taliban still, as our experts were of the view, are a big power over there in Afghanistan, and whatever happens in Afghanistan should be for the betterment of the people. Pakistan supports any solution that basically is owned and led by the people of Afghanistan. That is Pakistan's clear stance. But at the same time, there are three things that needs clarification. First, that this is a failed strategy in Afghanistan. And the United States has to revise its strategy in Afghanistan, and also that Pakistan would not become a scapegoat in this war on terror, and Pakistan would not fight anybody else's war on Pakistani soil. Thank you for watching today's program. See you next time. Khuda Hafiz. Welcome back to the special transmission on the Defense Day. Pakistan is a resilient nation, as we were discussing earlier before the break. Pakistan has been fighting extremism and terrorism successfully. We have fought our enemies on the eastern borders and also on the western borders successfully. And Pakistani nation is a resilient nation. We were discussing all these things, and we are paying our tribute to our war veterans, our martyrs as well, and the families of our war veterans and of our martyrs. We have our special guests in the studios, our brilliant officers from Pakistan Air Force, and a brilliant new guest, a singer, an artist who have just joined us. Our first guest is Wing Commander Muniza. She's an officer from Pakistan Air Force. Welcome to the show, Wing Commander Muniza. Our second guest is Wing Commander Yasir. He's a fighter pilot of JF-17 Thunder. Renowned, very famous, I would say, an aircraft that all the Pakistanis talk about. They take pride in this. And I'm sure a lot of young people who want to be fighter pilots, they would be watching this show, and we'll be discussing about that with you in a while. Maria Unera is a singer, is an artist, and welcome to the show. Maria, we'll be discussing about your singing and also your passion for singing, this song that you sang, Watan Ki Beti. Yes. We'll be discussing about this and this idea of Watan Ki Beti on this day, on the day of Defense Day of Pakistan. Wing Commander Muniza, starting with you, talking about Pakistan Air Force, a lot of people in Pakistan, all over Pakistan, young men and women especially, men especially and women, they want to join Pakistan Air Force. In armed forces, Pakistan Air Force has a special place. It's a force that is known to be very resilient, excellent discipline in armed forces, Pakistan Air Force. You as a woman police officer, female police Air Force officer, you joined Air Force. And what was that idea, that passion to join Air Force? And how did you come into joining Pakistan Air Force?
Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum
First of all,
assalam.
thank you very much for inviting us over. And just to give you a little bit of background, I belong to the family where my father happens to be the war veteran for 1965 war. So I grew up in a family where we grew up hearing the stories about the war and how my father has always contributed towards the nation. So I always had a passion to be a doctor, and how to serve a nation in a better way. I thought to join the armed forces. And I'm serving Pakistan Air Force since 1996. I would say, like Quaid-e-Azam said, that Pakistan Air Force is second to none. And we are trying our level best to live up to his expectations and what he expected from all of us. Pakistan Air Force has provided a very unique platform for the ladies of the nation, where initially we used to be inducted in medical corps only, but I think this is the unique organization where the ladies are now serving in every branch, starting from the fighter pilots, engineers, logistics, administration, IT. So the ladies get a very good opportunity, equivalent to men, to perform at their level best, and they get rewarded accordingly.
Right. And looking at you, watching you, when the young people, and especially young girls, when they see you, other women who are in universities, you are perhaps a double inspiration, a doctor and an Air Force officer. So both. How do you, pull off these two, I would say, these roles of an Air Force officer and a doctor? And do you meet young people? Do they ask you about these two roles that you have?
Yeah, Alhamdulillah, God has been very kind that I've been given this opportunity. And because I'm in the teaching department also, like I'm part of the faculty of the medical college, so most of the students, they get inspired by their teachers who are coming in uniform and giving them lectures, and they want to join the medical branch of Air Force for sure. Because, the uniform has its own charm, and especially for ladies. I think I won't say it just happened, and God has been very kind to me.
Right, certainly. Wing Commander Yasir, you're a fighter pilot, and I think every young man or a boy or a young man in Pakistan wants to be a fighter pilot. Being a fighter pilot in Pakistan Air Force, this also has a legacy of great men in Pakistan Air Force who have been serving Pakistan Air Force. We have our Shuhada as well, many who also got Nishan-e Haider, Rashid bin Haas, and other people. Coming from Pakistan Air Force, how do you feel about Pakistan Air Force and the passion about Pakistan Air Force, serving the nation, serving Pakistan Air Force? Tell us about that.
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Being a fighter pilot is a unique honor. Very few people across the globe have this honor, and having the opportunity to serve the country, that's something which you cannot explain in words. Our predecessors have set the bar very high for us, and that is the standard. Like MM Alam and Rashid bin Haas, Sarfraz Rafiqi Shaheed, these are the role models for us, and these are the people who we look up to. And inshallah, we try that. We try to follow them, and we aim to be like them.
Certainly, I think, and they have set the bar really high. And all we can do is that we can strive to attain that level that these great men have set the bar. Captain Nisar, talking about Pakistan Army, we were discussing about your experiences in Waziristan and Pakistan all over. Pakistan Army and the collaboration, I would say, of Pakistan Army and Pakistan Air Force in fighting extremism and terrorism, targeting those terrorists who had their hideouts in Waziristan and other places in Pakistan. This collaboration of armed forces, how do you see that?
Obviously, the collaboration of Pakistan Air Force and Pakistan Army is very important. It's a very vital part of the armed forces. We cannot fight any war without the support of Pakistan Air Force, and they are doing very well. And they're supporting in every field. Like in Waziristan, the air support is very much necessary at times, and we cannot fight, we cannot defend without the collaboration of Pakistan Air Force.
And certainly their sport is very
Oh, yes,
important when
it
we
is very
talk about
important. No doubt.
targeting those terrorists and
Oh, yes.
their hideouts and fighting those people on the border areas, certainly in difficult terrains. It is very important to have that kind of collaboration.
And as far as my personal experience is concerned, the enemies are very afraid of Pakistan Air Force. You know, whenever we are in the field, we call it to soften up the target. You know, they are very afraid whenever they hear the voice of the jets, they run away like anything. So it is very important to have a collaboration of Pakistan Air Force in any type of war.
Maria, but we all are, I would say, emotionally attached to the armed forces. These are the people, these brilliant officers who are serving the nation, they're serving their armed forces. Your association with the armed forces, how do you see association in a way that looking up to the armed forces, you know, I myself, I come from a background of Air Force officers and Army officers, my grandfather, my father and my uncles, about a common man in Pakistan like me, like you, who are not in the armed forces, but we appreciate them, the way they are serving our nation. How do you see the armed forces?
Well, I mean, first of all, I'd really like to thank three of you and the service that you guys have given our country and our people. I didn't realize I'd get so emotional when I'd be here, but growing up, my father was very much influenced by the Pakistani Air Force. And I remember him telling me stories about our country and our army men, our Air Force fighter pilots, and everybody. So when I got into the music industry, I wanted to connect with this cause and with this initiative, and I was working with a band. They're still a band, but I collaborated with a band called Rocklight, I think about 2 or 3 years ago, and it was completely spontaneous. We got in touch with the Pakistani Air Force and they wanted a song for 6 September. And it was completely, like I said, spontaneous. We got our song written, composed, and recorded all, and video shot all in 1 week. And I had the privilege and the honor to go to the base academy in Rasalpur, I believe. So we shot the video even there, and then we also were given the opportunity to tour around all the Air Force bases. And it was such an experience, meeting a lot of fighter pilots, women and men, and meeting a lot of the students over there at the college as well. Yeah, so it's really great that I was part of that, and it's really great to express a musician's emotions towards the Pakistani Air Force.
And tell us about the idea of Watan Ki Beti, this song. Where
I
did the
mean,
idea come from?
it's a dedication.
The lyrics and the music.
It's definitely a dedication. It's a dedication in a way because we wanted to pay a tribute to everybody in the Air Force, from the people who fly the planes to the people who, you know, like it's such a overwhelming experience and an overwhelming job and whole. So we wanted to write something that our Pakistani citizens could also relate to the song, not just the pilots and the people who are part of the Air Force. We wanted it to be very relatable. So it was a true dedication, and it was a great success. And I'm just really honored to be a part of it in any way.
Great. And we are going to listen to the song.
Oh yeah, for
Watan
sure.
Ki Beti. We'll listen to the song and we'll be right back after the song.
आगे जाएंगे जो मिलके सभी कैसे रुकेगा कोई रास्ता कभी मुंतज़िर मंज़िलें खुद कहे तुम हमें छू लो ना छू लो ना छू लो ना
Wonderful. Great song, Maria. And the video was excellent.
Thank
and
you.
obviously your voice. And I think that is the spirit that we all have for our armed forces. And Pakistani nation stands with our armed forces. And we are there for the armed forces. Armed forces are there for us. As they say, one for all and all for one. So that is how it goes. Wing Commander Muniza, talking about Pakistan Air Force and the medical profession in it, doctors in Pakistan Air Force. Before going towards that, this whole discussion of medical and doctors, being an Air Force officer is not an easy job, as people think, as people assume that it's just about having postings in big cities and that is it. It's also about having postings in remote areas of Pakistan. And I can relate because I've seen remote air bases and camps of Pakistan Air Force on the borders, in Balochistan and Sindh, everywhere in Pakistan. Being away from your family, serving in the remote areas, it's not an easy job. Tell us about that. Tell us about your experiences in postings and women in Pakistan Air Force.
I think when we are posted to the different stations, as you said, to the remote areas, maybe it sounds a little bit difficult for the people who are not part of the community, but luckily Pakistan Air Force is like a family. So you really don't feel alienated in a new place, and the people around you, the other officers, the lady wives, we all live like a family. So the environment is very good for our children. The education system in every base, whether we are talking about the major city like Islamabad or Karachi, or if we are talking about the small places like Jacobabad, Pakistan Air Force has established a very good education system. So our children are not deprived of the education. And another important thing, and the beauty is, like Pakistan Air Force established a base at Jacobabad and now establishing at Bulari. It's not only for the welfare of our own personnel, but the people who live in the nearby vicinity, they get quite a lot of advantage from that. Because the health facility which is being established for the personnel is extended to the community. As you can well imagine, when Jacobabad was established, those people and their ladies, they were not aware of any civilization around them. So it had brought a good cultural change in that area. And now when they're establishing Bulari base, again it's going to be kind of a development for that area. So we take it in a very positive way that when we move to the remote areas, we are providing kind of development in our services to the community, in particular the medical, in the field of medicine and in the field of education.
Right. And especially when you, as a doctor, when you meet people in these remote areas, you connect with them, certainly.
Course, yes.
And their perception about armed forces and Pakistan Air Force, certainly that changes as well, because when they see that they are kind people, kind doctors, and they're interacting with them from Pakistan Air Force, they're there to help them out. Tell us about that thing, that connecting with the people in remote areas. How is that feeling?
Surprisingly, they're very happy to see the uniformed people, honestly speaking, because they know they're the defenders of the nation. So our relationship with those people is always very good. And then another thing is that the PAFA provides, which is the Pakistan Air Force Women Association, provides a unique kind of a forum or a platform for the ladies of these remote areas to come and work in the vocational training centers. So, you know, whatever small little bit of talent they have, that also gets flourished. Like if somebody, if I am giving you example of the common remote area basis, if they're good in handicraft or in stitching or something, then their talent also gets rewarded. And they feel very happy about it.
And PAFA operates in all the, let's say, all bases?
Yes, in all the bases, wherever there is an Air Force kind of base, PAFA is an integral part of it. And all the lady officers' wives and ourselves, obviously we are looking after that.